Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Lisa Stroda. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Holistic Life Coach Podcast, where you'll get some motivation, inspiration, and value from movers, shakers, world changers, and unabashed dreamers. If you'd like to share your story, contact me through the show's website, theholisticlifecoachpodcast.com, and we'll see if you're a good fit. In today's conversation, I chat with certified running coach, personal trainer, and yoga instructor Lisa Weinert about how she designs custom plans for clients to regain their health and what brought her to a career in the health and wellness industry. Now, on to this week's episode. Lisa is a certified running coach, a personal trainer, and yoga instructor. She's the owner of RunFitYoga in Georgia. Lisa's also certified in functional movement assessment. She designs custom plans for clients to regain their health. She also refers clients if they need additional services such as chiropractic care and massage therapy. Welcome to the pod, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so you have an impressive resume. And
thank you.
And where did all of that, how did you get into running and yoga, and how did that all begin?
Well, see, I started running over 42 years ago in high school. Some friends were going out for the track team. And I thought, okay, I'm not coordinated when it comes to hitting a ball or catching a ball, but I can run. So I joined the track team.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And then it just built from there. You know, as I spent more time exploring my journey with running, I realized that I needed to do some other things. And I really enjoy yoga and stretching and what that brings to you. And then the third component, of course, is the cross training, you know, with the weights and the exercises. So as my journey went on, I needed to balance out everything I was doing. So I was drawn to all of that for those reasons.
Mm-hmm. Why do you find yoga rewarding?
Yoga is a chance to just really settle on your mat and be your person and do your practice. And it connects you with your body. Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite instructors are great at cueing. This is where you should feel it. And there's the mental, there's the physical component where you're connecting with your body and understanding I'm moving in this way. So I'm going to use this muscle. I'm going to feel it in my legs. I'm going to feel it in my upper body, depending on what I'm doing. And then there's the peace that comes with it. It's mm-hmm. really interesting when you connect to your breath and how that makes you feel. Just taking a deep breath, because so many times we're multitasking, we're in the middle of stuff, we're going from one thing to another, and you don't just take that breath. So, and I also realized as I got into my running mm-hmm. that if I didn't do something with the yoga, then my running would suffer.
Okay.
Because you can't just do one thing over and over.
And breath is so important with running also.
It is. Yeah. It is. And there are times when I use my yoga breathing with some of my runners. I used it Sunday. I was out with my team and one of the women was just having a hard time catching her breath. And it makes such a difference when you can breathe in a deep breath through your nose and exhale through your mouth. It really slows everything down and mm-hmm. it helps a lot. And when you feel centered, then you feel a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people are on your team?
I have 14 women. Yeah, and they range in ages mm-hmm. from the younger ones who are dealing with, you know, from a female perspective, those that are dealing with their period and balancing that out and exploring and expanding their lives, to those who are dealing with menopause and the frustrations that might bring. Mm-hmm. So they all have different kinds of plans as a result.
Yeah, and you create a custom plan for each of them.
I do. So I look at how people are running. And I see if we have to add any exercises to balance out their muscle development. And then from there, the balance is from what do they need personally? What is the goal that they're going after? Like what distance, what kind of course are they going to be running on? Then what kind of life do they have? Do they have a family? Do they have a job? Do they have other interests? Like what are they trying to put into their whole schedule? So I try to make it fit and make it work for them, so they have a better chance at success.
Yeah, and all those things are just synergistic. They just all they all affect each other. And I don't think, that, many people think about that.
It's true. That's right. Some of the folks that show up have some injuries, and some of them are overuse injuries from using the same muscle set. So sometimes too, people will come to me and say, that running thing I did, it made this hurt or made that hurt. But in the reality, it's a habit they have from because so many times we're bent over, we're holding on to the phones, we're working on the computers, we're driving a lot, and we don't realize how that impacts our whole body. So if you have a habit like that, and maybe your core is not doing its work, and you try to run and then your lower back hurts, you think it's the running that caused it. So it's the body awareness, it's figuring out what you need to do to strengthen. And then, like the yoga helps you work on your hips a lot and your core and your balance. When you think about running, you're on one foot at a time. So you need to make sure your balance is good. And then when you think about like the cross training is not something like bicycle riding or swimming. I mean, those are good activities to plug in, but the cross training are ways to strengthen muscles that would complement the muscles you're already using. So when we run and we walk and we do things like that, we're going in a forward motion. We don't go to the sides as much, but we need to develop those hips. We need to develop the muscles all in your core. So that's what the focus is for the cross training.
Oh, okay. Can you describe what functional movement assessment is? No.
Yep. So that's really interesting because when you think about like a functional movement is like how someone stands up from a chair. So I'll ask someone to stand up, and the way that I would like to see people stand up is for them to stand straight up, to use their glutes, and to not push off the chair, to not lean forward to get momentum, to not try and bring their knees together, to just stand up. So that's a functional movement. And I see all these varieties of ways that people actually do stand up. So the assessment looks at everyone's like how their body's moving. You look at ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders. You look at how mobile they are and how stable they are. If you see someone's ankle doing a lot of movement, a lot of times that means their core's not doing the work they need to. So by understanding and kind of testing how they're moving, and you do squats, you do lunges, there's other things that are components of the test. They're scientific and they're measurable and they're repeatable. So you can kind of do a check-in at a later time to see how we made some improvements on the things we focused on. So it gives people a chance to see, I thought I had a weak ankle, but it's really my core. So then we really pin down what they need to work on.
Okay. And I mean, core work is so important with
it is
with yoga. And I know practicing, I practice a little bit of yoga. So I've, and my personal trainer is also a yoga instructor. So
fabulous.
Yeah. So I have autoimmune disease, and I have celiac, Hashimoto's. Right. And so I have joint pain. And I was working out, and I knew that I need to do something different. And I said, I need a personal trainer. And I picked this specific trainer because she's also a yoga teacher. And there are days I never, I never cancel a session, because even if I don't feel good, I know that we could practice yoga, and that the stretching I'll feel better. So if I get out of bed and I'm having a hard time moving, I said, gee, I can't meet with her today because there's no way I can do weights and stuff. It's not an excuse. It's then looking at it as, well, I'm going to go there and we can do yoga. We can practice yoga and I'll feel better.
I do that with several of my clients.
Yeah.
They'll come in and say, and I'll, quiz them when they come in. What are we doing? What kind of day are we having? Because whether you have an autoimmune or not, sometimes it's still nice to have that option.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to, for you to see where the client is and then go from there. And and when when you have that option, you don't feel like, oh, I'm just gonna go there and, just do all these, lift all these weights and I'm just gonna feel terrible. Whereas even sometimes I think just talking to someone, especially when you have chronic pain, is part of the, of the session and really helps.
Yep, it does.
Yeah.
There's I have lots of conversations like that. One of my runners has the Hashimoto's. So she has to deal with that. So sometimes we have to kind of adjust the training program as a result.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So I do a weekly check-in with my runners because of those kind of issues, because life gets in the way, plans change, people get sick, all kinds of things come up.
Yeah. And all those things affect our health. Even
your mindset.
Even when we don't think they do, like we may physically be feeling fine, but like we said, mindset is so important, and that's where it could be affecting us.
Right.
And until we talk to somebody, somebody asks us, brings it to our attention, we might not recognize that it's bothering us. And
right.
Yeah. So like running and yoga, and when you started in high school running, and what propelled you just say, this is what I want to do. I want to help women this way with their health.
Well, if you'd asked me in high school, I would have been shocked. This is what I was doing now, to be quite honest. When I started, I thought, oh my gosh, this is hard. Like it was getting a stitch on my side when it feels like you can't breathe without pain. My motivation wasn't great. And it was really different back then because the coaches didn't talk to you about form or how to run. And here I'm dating myself. I ran on a cinder track, which was just not the greatest. I'm sure. Right.
Yeah,
most people are like, what is that? But it's no longer there. You have all these great all-weather rubber kind of texture tracks and all that. So, but I was when I went on to college, I thought I'm gonna try running a little bit on my own and see how I do. So once I was on my own, I just was motivated to try and go a little further and see how I could do. I had a hill by my dorm, and I would run up that hill and I wouldn't make it. And each time I'm like, I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna go further. And I kept wanting to try a little bit harder, push a little bit more. So it was something I grew into. It wasn't something I started with. And then when I went on to college, when I was there at college, I started playing rugby. And it was great that I was a runner because then I had the endurance and I didn't have to worry about that because you had a 30-minute half where you're constantly running. And I'm not the most athletic in terms of understanding how to tackle and throw a ball well. So I learned that, but I was glad I at least knew how to run. And then when I got into past college and I was working, I had a friend who was interested in running, and we decided we would do a 10K, and that was a long run. And we were so nervous. We were in the porta potty when the gun went off. So we came flying out of the porta potty, pulling up our shorts, trying to jump in, extra nervous now that we were starting a little bit late. So, and then I just went from there. I kept trying to see if I could go not quite faster. I wasn't always a fast runner, but I wanted to go further. I really liked the feeling of being stronger. So, and I remember running into my coaches from high school, and I told them what I was doing in the distances, and they asked me, where was that when you were here? Like, what happened? Like, I don't know. I just didn't have it then, but I have it now. I got, bit by the bug, and I kept going.
Yeah.
I just kept going.
Yeah. And those running communities are so special. I know I am not a runner. I have, it's just, I don't know. It's always been hard for me, the endurance part. And I've walked a 5K, and that was quite a while ago. So my goal for next year is to walk a 5K, then maybe eventually get to run a 5K. But I've seen just this community and this support through the groups that show up to run these races.
Right. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It does add a lot to the value of running when you can share it with other people. And it just, then I run on the trails, and I do some running on the roads, but most of my runs and all my races have been on the trails. And it's the trail runners are even more special. Not that I'm saying anything negative about the road runners, because sometimes there's that little rub between the groups, but the trail runners are quite a tight community. And it's the support, the camaraderie, just the stories everyone has, it's a happy place for everyone. There are times when it's hard, but everyone loves to get to this place. The places you can see on the trails with the birds and the sun, sometimes the rain, crossing water, having to climb over things. You have a great sense of accomplishment. You feel really good about it, and it's great to share it with other people.
Yeah. I'm involved with a local group called Live Fit with Lupus, and we have an annual run. And it used to be half marathon, 10K, 5K, the family fun run, and now it's just the 5K and the 10K. And so I see, a lot of these foundations and charities have runs. And I know it must be profitable, because otherwise they wouldn't be having them.
Right.
And I know people who will plan their summers around each of these events. I'm in the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa. And so we had, I think we were the second race this year in the area. And so now that everything's opening up, and we had someone come from Dubuque, which is about an hour or so north of Davenport. And so she had gotten the medal for, furthest away that have come. But they've come from all over, which is just fantastic. That, our race isn't, it's not the Chicago Marathon or anything like that. But, that people want to come and run our race and these other, races and raise money for these groups is fantastic. Just very touching. And
I was involved with the team in training for a long time, which is part of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And, you would raise money for the cause, and then you would go to these events and you'd be representing the team. And that's how I learned about it. I was at a race and I saw all these people in these purple shirts, and I wanted to know what it was all about. I went to a meeting and jumped in and got really involved as a volunteer. So there's been a lot of cancer in my family. Lymphoma was one of them. So it felt good to take something that I could do and that I had fun with, and I could then also combine that with the team and combine it with the fundraising for a good cause. So it served a lot of purposes.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I have an 88-year-old mother who, Lisa, what are you doing? Oh, I'm, I'm going to be volunteering for a race. Well, what kind of race? It's a running race. So she said, so how does this foundation make money? I said, well, with the race. Well, people, they pay a fee, and, they'll get a t-shirt, and they get their swag bag, and they run the race. And she says, wait a minute. Wait, they're paying to run? You can just go run outside.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes when you look at the prices of some of these things, you wonder, especially with the ones that are not connected to fundraising, you just wonder, because they can get really expensive.
Yeah. And so and I know you have some stories about people who have, wanted to either run a race, who have come to you and says, I want to train, and I want to run a race by so-and-so, or this date, or but can we talk a little bit about mindset and mantras when running, and especially these long races, when I've heard runners, when they hit the wall, like, and they have to keep going. and how important mindset is, and mantras, and that will to keep going.
It's very important.
Mhm.
And it's something that you need to include in your training, because when you're out there, you're doing your physical component of the training, so you can make sure you can actually move that long and stay on your feet, but you're also doing the mental training.
Mhm.
So, the mantras range depending on what someone needs. So I can't give people mantras. I can give them suggestions and let them know this is what I use. These are some of the things I do. But it's some of it comes from your practice, from your training. So I give at my runners a speed workout, and that might some of it, for example, would include a hill training where you would run up and run down the hills that you encounter over X number of miles. And they would say, but I'm not really trying to kill it. I can walk the hills. I'm like, I know, but I want you to run these hills, because I want you to know that you can get up and you can get down that hill. And you'll dig deep when you're there facing this hill, and you're going to go, I did this already. I know this. That kind of mantra, the thing that comes into play, that you may know ahead of time what you want to say, you may not. So I had a race that I personally did in January, and I was concerned not about the distance, but more about the timing, because sometimes they have cutoffs. This particular race had passes that allowed them to use the park we were in, but everyone had to be out by sunset.
Okay.
So if they didn't think you were going to finish, they were going to pull you off the course at the aid stations.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got to a point where I thought, okay, I think I'm going to be able to finish this within the time I'm supposed to. It was, I'm going to run the mile that I'm in. I'm going to envision myself crossing the finish line because I saw it, started by it. I know what it looks like. And I'm come back. I'm going to run the mile that I'm in. And I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. So that's the kind of thing I use. Other times I'll lean on, what I'm physically doing to keep me focused. The trails have the rocks and the roots and the ups and the downs. And it's, if you lose your focus or if you don't pay attention, that's usually when you trip. So sometimes the mantra becomes one foot in front of the other, stay focused, be humble, you've got this, be strong. And it's just whatever works to keep you moving. So for this particular race, part of my mantra, just depending on the time, it was, okay, this is relatively flat. You can go, move now, don't stop, just go. Don't think about it. So mantras are personal. Sometimes you go in knowing this is what I'm going to use. Sometimes it's something that comes to you during the race as you're facing something that's hard or challenging. And a lot of times runners will find that there's that mile where the energy kind of dips.
Yeah.
And so that's the wall. And it varies for each runner. And it's not always the same mile, but often it is. And it's when you hit that knowing, okay, here's the dip. Okay, here we go. We're going to get to the other side. I've done longer runs than this because it's usually earlier on in the race and you can do it. So it's just a matter of like reassuring yourself that you can do it. So those are some of the directions or guidelines I give to people when it comes to mantras.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to come back to the show in a minute. Could you do me a favor? Could you fill out a form at the holisticlifecoachpodcast.com and jump on the horn with me for 10 minutes? I'd like to know your likes and dislikes about the show and the biggest reason you're listening to the show. This gives me a chance to get to know my listeners. Thanks. Now, let's pick up where we left off. When I watch the runners, it's so inspiring to me. There's someone who has, it's physically hard for me to do that. And I know it will take a lot of hard work for me to, there's some that are just natural runners, and I just think that's great, and but I always there's a running class we have at the gym, and I see them all on the treadmills in the wintertime. And I've told them, you inspire me to just get on the treadmill and even walking, because I know I see how dedicated they are.
Right.
Yeah. And then once it gets warm around here, people are coming out of the woodwork, walking, running. And it's like someone flicked a switch and they've all come out of their houses. And it's really neat to see that in this area. I'm from Chicago originally, and we don't have that there. It's not, it's so much, the lifestyle is so busy, much busier over there. And here,
that's interesting.
Yeah, here it's kind of like living in a suburb of Chicago. Things are more spread out. Life is a little
Mm.
easier and and just and you don't have to go very far to be in a rural area. So my
Mm.
Chicago friends, I'll say when I'm taking my kids to school, I'll pass horses and I'll pass llamas and they're just,
Right.
really? But I thought you lived in the city.
Right.
Well, I do. So, yeah.
Just
So in
different.
all the runners, and
That's
then
funny.
we have Ragbri, the bike race here every year, and that's
Hmm.
across Iowa. And then at the end, they end in Davenport, and they dip their bikes in the Mississippi. And
Oh, how cool.
yeah, yeah. So then the cyclists are out, um, and
Hmm.
it's just different way of life over here, but it is neat to see all the runners come out and that. But I know
Yes.
you have some stories you have
Yeah.
to about a client who wanted to run 30 miles
Hmm.
before age 50. Can you
Right.
share that with us? That the
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, she and I met at a networking event, and she was representing the business that she was doing, and she pulled me aside and she whispered it. I
Mm,
want to run 30 miles before I turn 50. And I said, okay, let's do it. Let's find some time to talk and let's do it. So she had not run long distances, so she had a lot to learn. And
mhm,
in terms of hydration, nutrition,
yeah.
training, she had done some running before, but this was a different approach. So the challenge this person has is she unfortunately got COVID,
Mm,
and didn't recover as well or as quickly as she wanted. And so we had to cut her back down to half that distance for her race. But she's going back to her goal and she's going to do it in December. So we just have a longer time now to build her
uh-huh,
up. So it's a little bit safer. We
mhm,
were trying to figure out, we kind of adjusted the training schedule to see how she would do. And we're
mhm.
testing the limits and we found them. So we knew we needed to cut back. So now we've put together a slower plan, meaning slower in terms of increases with mileage.
Yeah.
So, but she's going to do her distance in December. She's
Oh,
signed up
wow.
for the race, and I got her plan ready, and I can't wait to see her out there.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Hmm.
Well, I'll
So I'm
be
very
thinking of
excited.
her, yeah, and rooting for her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a place one of the nice things about where I live in Georgia is there's so many wonderful places to run.
Mhm,
So there are mountains. You can get to a mountain trail in an hour from where I am. And there's actually a mountain a mile and a half down the road from me that I walk over to and I run. So this particular place that she's going to is called Cloudland Canyon, and it's like the Grand Canyon of Georgia, and
mhm.
it has waterfalls and it has some steep climbs. So she'll have to do some work, but I think she's going to love it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Oh,
I'm
good.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So what keeps you motivated as a personal trainer, yoga instructor, runner?
Motivated for my own workouts or motivated to support people?
You know, let me I would say both because I think, it's important to know what keeps you motivated for yours and then,
Hmm.
others,
Right.
in supporting them. Yeah.
So when it comes to other people's plans, I get super excited when someone says, I think I want to do this, but I don't know how. Or let's see if do you think I can do this?
Hmm.
And unless there's something glaring, my answer is always yes. And so it's just a matter of how we figure it out.
Hmm.
And what I love is how these women start to feel stronger and more capable, meaning that they feel capable, not that they weren't before, but they start to feel that way. And they
Yeah.
start to feel more confident and they start to grow in so many ways. And to witness that, to be a part of that, it's one of the most rewarding things that I can do. Um, so for example, I had a few women that were running this race called the Georgia Jewel. Now, the
Hmm.
Georgia Jewels did a lot of inclines and a lot of mountainy parts, a lot of rocks. So because of COVID, they had to change the plans. Originally, it was they would take people in the van to the start and let them run back. But because of COVID, they weren't using the van, so they changed it. So there were 3 women running 35 miles, and because of the change, it became 37 miles. And one woman was running 18, and that got changed to 23, which is a big jump.
Yeah.
So there was a part we couldn't train on because it was on private property, and it was really steep. It was short, but it was really steep, and it was at the end. And I met them, each of them at the end, at the bottom of this, and I would take them up. And this one woman in particular, she was hurting. Her feet were hurting. She wanted to finish. She was determined. She didn't want to have that, that she didn't like to have that around or on her record. She just wanted to finish. She wanted to get to the end. She had worked hard for it. She knew she could do it. So when she saw me, she started crying. I said, okay, you're gonna have to do this. There's no way for me to get you out of this spot. You have to do this on your power. So take a sip of water, take a deep breath, and we're going to go up that hill. So she'd go and she'd stop. She'd take a breath, and she'd go and she'd stop. And she was crying. She was bent over. People started gathering, cheering her on. It gets me emotional.
Yeah.
They started cheering for her. And a friend of mine is the photographer that was working that day. And she captured these pictures of her in pain. And then just us connecting as we got to the top of that. And just to see that she did it, that she could push through and that I could help her. I mean, I was just holding her hand. Physically, she was doing it, but I was able to help her. It was great. It was great. And watching these women, all of them had run the furthest they had ever run. So the joy to be part of someone's journey like that, to see them accomplish that, because there's so many ways that women knock themselves down.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that we judge ourselves so critically. There's so many ways we look at our body and we're not pleased with where it's at or what it can do. So to do that and to be part of that journey and to put together something that worked for them so well, it's just fabulous. It's just that's what keeps me motivated to wanting to do it again and again.
Yeah.
I had a runner who just did a 50-mile race. It was it was OSS, Office of Secret Service, and CIA. It was a very interesting area, and it was a 50-miler. It was at night. So we had to talk through, how does she get her mind wrapped around running at night? What does she need? How does she handle things? So she had to go practice this. I couldn't do that for her, but we made the plan together. And she had done a 50-miler before she met me, and she said her speed was good, but she felt like she was really beat up. But when she did this one, she said, I got through it, I enjoyed it, and I felt great when I was done because I followed your plan. So to hear that reinforcement and that she actually enjoyed it, it wasn't just slogging through, that's what pulls me in. So and I like to run with them. So if I'm going to run with them, then I got to keep up doing my own work, and I love doing all those things. So I teach the classes and I actually do them. So I teach the strength training, I teach the yoga classes, and I go out and I train with them. I run as much as I can with them. So I do all the miles.
Wonderful. That is just so, it really pulls at my heartstrings, those stories and that's so rewarding to see people accomplish their goals and to know that you're a part of it. And that's just wonderful. What
it is.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
From a career perspective, it took me a little bit to put together all my certifications. So when I started out, I originally was certified as a personal trainer because people were asking me to put together running plans. And I knew there was more to just running, and I didn't know what to do from a workout perspective because I was always outside. I wasn't someone who was in the gym that much. So I got certified and learned and started working with people. And at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But if someone has this vision and wants to do what I do, there isn't like one certification for RunFitYoga. So it's three. It's the running coach certification, it's the personal trainer certification, it's the yoga certification.
Okay.
So they take some time and they take some money to do that. And then from there, it's depending on like what kind of specialty do you want. So I've added things because I like to teach other things, and I like to, I keep my personal training certification current by doing other trainings, and it also complements what I'm doing. So there's a thing called the foam roller by Trigger Point. It's a company. And so I'm certified to teach Trigger Point foam rolling classes. So I can teach my runners how to use the foam rollers and to use the equipment that they have to help them with their recovery for their muscles. The functional movement assessment was something that my chiropractor actually suggested. I work in her office. I have a space there. And she was the one who really said, you should go do this, because if you can get a better understanding of how they're moving, you'll do a much better job coaching them. So the functional movement came that way. So it's something that I grew into. And, it's the suggestion I would have is that to focus on something you think that you feel passionate about, that interests you, that like once you develop your niche, like more women come to me than men. Although lately I've been getting more a group of men that have been interested to run as well with us. And so, in looking at what do these people need, and what do I need? Because I'm 58, I'm on the other side of menopause. Like, what kind of training do I need? So like, I like to be able to focus on things that help me help people like myself. And then I, so it just depends on what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a specific enough answer, but there's the foundation for the certifications, and then you kind of fine tune what kind of coach, what kind of trainer do you want to be? Like, who do you want to support?
Yeah. Okay. Great information. Great information.
Good.
Thank you. So can we get to our random question round?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
What you got?
These are fun. These are just fun questions off the cuff. So if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would they be?
Let's see, be Brene Brown. Who else would I want to have dinner with? Billy Joel and Barack Obama.
Yeah, interesting. What is your morning routine?
It's funny. I'm very routine oriented. So I ask Alexa to turn the lights on. And then, but I pick my clothes out the night before. So I wake up, clean up, get my clothes on, and then I do the question of the day. It's a trivia question to get my brain going. So I ask Alexa what the trivia question of the day is. And I have two cats. So I make my bed every morning. It's very important to me to make things neat and tidy. And then I head downstairs to get the cats fed. And if I like this kind of morning, when I teach yoga, I don't eat breakfast before. So I have prepared my breakfast, and today I actually prepared my lunch and a snack because it was that kind of day. So I make my coffee and get my food organized and pack all my stuff I need for the day, and I head out. So I live about 3.5 miles from the area that I work out of. So head over there and start my day.
Yeah. What is your favorite pump up song? Like,
yep. I love the Black Eyed Peas, Pump It.
Yeah.
I think that's the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that song.
Yeah, that's one of mine too. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah. So if you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Start yoga now and start connecting with yourself now. I think when I was 18, I was so excited about going to college and doing everything I possibly could that I was too busy. I needed to slow down and just take a moment. So I think that, I'm not very good at the slowing down part. I'm good at the action part. I have a lot of energy. So I would say, that yoga's helped me take those moments to slow down. And I think I would also tell her to read Brene Brown, because I think she's got a lot of valuable insight that's helpful.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
My answer is going to make me tear up, but it would be that you are enough. You are enough.
Beautiful. That is, yeah. I know, listeners, you can't see us, but we're both tearing up with that answer. Yes, that's very, something so simple is just so deep. Effects of it. Yeah. Yeah. Health-wise, what is something someone can do in 5 minutes to improve their health?
Well, if you have just 5 minutes, I would do a body assessment, because so many times our posture is bad. So the biggest piece of advice I give to people when they're going through their everyday life is to make sure their chest is up and they have good posture. So I would do a body assessment to get in touch with your body and take a nice deep breath and let your body relax for a moment. Because so many times when we're multitasking or involved with things, you have no idea what our body's doing. But if you can get yourself to a place where there's good posture and your chest is up, and then if you're at that place, if you have more time, we can go for a walk. Just connect. Just get outside, walk away from your desk, walk away from your stuff, and go for a walk and keep that posture going, because that's going to make your core work for you. It's going to make your shoulders go in the right place. And you can really get a lot out of all of that.
Yeah. So where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
I do have a website, but I'm more active on Facebook. I find it challenging to keep up all of those things when you're trying to do all those things. So, so I'm much better at keeping my Facebook page up to date, and it's at RunFitYoga. So I have my website, my Facebook page, and I also have a group, a RunFitYoga group. So if people are interested in running and they want to, this is a free group, and I put tips in there every now and then, and I pop in and pose questions and check in with people. So, and then if you're part of the team, I have my RunFitYoga private page for the team. But there is a free group for basic advice and support. And then there's just my information, my landing page, I guess you would call it. My website is wellnessdiva.net. Because when I started, I was the Wellness Diva, which was a fun name, but it didn't tell anyone what I did. So when I started getting more focused and had a better understanding of what I wanted to do, and realized that it was all about RunFitYoga, that was a better name. So it does say that on my website, but the address is wellnessdiva.net. So just so that it's not confusing. It also became hard because as I get more certifications, when people would ask me what I would do, they'd get glassy-eyed listening to me rattle off these things. I thought, that's not the way to go. But if I say to people I do RunFitYoga, or I'm a RunFitYoga coach, then they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah.
Listeners, all of Lisa's information will be in the show notes. So if you didn't get it there, you can access those on our website. So thank you, Lisa, for chatting with us today.
This was great. Thank you very much.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to our new episode all the way through. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You can find Lisa's contact information in the show notes at theholisticlifecoachpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Holistic Life Coach Podcast and at the Holistic Life Coach Podcast on Facebook. Thanks again. Until next time, beautiful souls.